I never imagined a snowstorm would lead to my heart's unexpected rescue. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sky was an ominous gray, swirling like a giant endless whirlpool. It choked lights from the street lamps, a fierce wind whipped my hair, stinging my cheeks, making my heart race. That uneasy feeling. It was like thunder rumbling deep in my chest. I was already wrestling with life's weight, my father's illness, my mother's distant stare, my sister's haunting silence. Each breath felt like a burden. My world had shrunk to this tiny, dimly lit apartment, the walls closing in. That day, everything seemed darker. The storm howled like a wild animal, shaking me to my core. That I stepped outside, hoping for a breath of fresh air, but I was met with snowflakes, swirling angrily, as if trying to tell me something. They danced around me, blending into the chaos of my thoughts. Suddenly, I slipped. Time slowed. My hand reached out, grasping nothing but the cold air. The ground came rushing up, and my heart sank faster than my body. I landed with a thud, the breath knocked out of me. It was then, through the blizzard's fury, that I saw him. A figure emerged like a ghost from the storm, tall, shadowy, with piercing, startling eyes. I blinked, confused. The snow fell thick and fast, but it was as if the world around him froze. My heart pounded, an odd mix of fear and hope coursed through me. Who was this stranger? Why did he look so familiar, like a puzzle piece just waiting to fit in the empty space of my life? Moments stretched, I watched as he moved closer, his breath visible in the frigid air. My world, clouded in pain, suddenly felt lighter. Intrigued and terrified, I felt a spark was at hope. The air crackled with energy as he extended a hand, pure kindness in a chaotic moment. Every second ticked loudly. I hesitated, my heart hammering. Would I take the leap? Would this storm lead to my heart's unexpected rescue, or would it sweep me further into despair? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the stranger reached out, I held my breath, the world compressing into that singular moment. My hand hovered above his, trembling in the chill of the storm and my own uncertainty. The heaviness within me rattled as I felt the weight of every choice I had made leading up to this one, to abandon the darkness or embrace the fear. That it was the silence in his gaze, a deep and haunting understanding, that urged me forward. I grasped his hand, an electric connection surging through me, as he pulled me up to my feet. The snow continued to swirl around us, and for that brief instant, my worries melted away, swallowed by the chaos. Thank you, I breathed, the words barely escaping my lips. His eyes softened slightly, and that flicker of warmth enveloped me like a fragile flame against the cold. Are you all right? He asked, his voice calm despite the storm's fury. I nodded, though I felt anything but all right. In his presence, however, a new kind of warmth seeped through my bones. I just needed some air, I managed to say, my voice steadying. I glanced back at my apartment, a silent prison of heartache and worry, a life I yearned to escape, even if only for moments. What about you? Why are you out here? He paused, his gaze far away, as if searching the horizon for something lost. Probably for the same reason, he replied, his voice now a quiet murmur. Sometimes it's easier to confront the storm outside than the one inside. His words collided with my heart. It was a revelation that slipped through the cracks in my defenses, igniting something I had nearly forgotten, a shared understanding of pain. I know that feeling too well, I confessed, my voice trembling. But I don't want to feel this way anymore. Then we start with small steps, he said, offering a half-smile that cut through the storm's bitterness. What's your name? Lucia, I replied, surprised that I spoke with such openness. "And you?" "Nico," he answered, his hand still warm in mine. "Let us find somewhere out of this storm, Lucia. I promise it's not as heavy outside as it is in your heart." We began to walk, side by side, through the flurries and drifts, but I felt an unsteady thrill course through me, both from the cold and the company. Each step offered a small refuge from my overwhelming thoughts. I could feel the vulnerability resting on my chest, but the connection I felt with Nico began to weave a thread of resilience around it. "Tell me about them," Nico urged, his voice gentle amidst the howling wind. "About who?" I hesitated, quite aware of how tightly I had wrapped my life in silence. "Your family," he replied, his gaze tender, inviting. "What weighs on your heart?" The tender question caught me off guard. I had shared so little, how could I possibly lay my burdens on a stranger? Yet, the sincerity in his gaze drew me in. "My sister, she hasn't spoken to me in months. It feels like we're islands drifting farther apart," I admitted, each word punctuating the air like a fragile prayer. "And my parents, especially my father, he is sick. Seeing him suffer feels like losing a piece of myself." The air hung heavy with my confessions, yet Nico didn't flinch away. Instead, warmth infused his voice. "That's a lot to carry alone," he acknowledged, his presence reassuring. "You deserve to lean on someone, even a little." A small spark ignited within me. I had spent so long feeling isolated, wallowing in the burdens I thought I had to bear alone. Perhaps the storm didn't have to be faced solo. But as I met his gaze, I couldn't shake the fear of what it would mean to let someone in. As we walked, I glanced at his profile, absorbing his strength, courage, and undeniable warmth amidst the cold chaos. There was something familiar in his shadow, like the echo of a past I hadn't yet fully realized. Just as my thoughts swirled, a distant cry broke through the wind, faint but urgent. We stopped, instinctively turning in the direction it came from. The sound was swallowed by the storm, but there was no mistaking its despair. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my heart thumping wildly. Nico nodded, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "We should check it out," he suggested, but dread knotted in my stomach. I wanted to keep moving forward, away from my own chaos. Yet something deep within compelled me toward the sound. As we quickened our pace into the blizzard, hope and dread mixed uneasily in my chest. Would this journey lead to healing, or deeper despair? Then, just beyond a snow-laden tree, we stumbled upon something unexpected, a small, half-buried figure struggling against the numbing snow. My breath caught in my throat. I gasped, panic setting in. "Nico, it's a child." Before I could react, the storm intensified, swirling wildly around us. Would I find the strength to help, even when my own heart felt so fragile? As I turned to Nico, his expression mirrored my fear, yet in his eyes, a determination ignited. In that moment, the snowstorm surged, and I realized my heart was already on a precarious edge. The night had shifted, and I felt the pull of an unknown future deepen, one I would have to face with both hope and uncertainty. What awaited us in the frozen dark? The frigid air clawed at my lungs as I stood frozen, the sight of the child half buried in the snow striking me like a hammer. Panic set my heart racing, but that quickly morphed into a sense of urgency. I couldn't just stand there. I had to act. "Nico!" I shouted, forcing myself into motion, my voice dampened by the roaring storm. "Help me!" He was beside me in an instant. Together we crouched next to the small figure, our hands desperately digging into the snow, clearing it away like rescuers at the scene of an avalanche. The child was pale, shivering, their tiny body lost in the endless white like a beacon of innocence amid despair. As we unburied them, I could see the dampness in their clothes, the frost kissing their cheeks. "Stay with us," I whispered, feeling a surge of protectiveness rise within me. My own heartache faded momentarily, replaced by the raw urgency to save this innocent life. "Can you hear me?" Nico asked, his voice steady but laced with concern. The child stirred slightly but did not respond, and a rush of fear washed over me. Were they conscious? Were they too far gone? "We can't let them freeze like this," I cried, my fingers trembling as I stroked the child's back to generate warmth. "We have to get them somewhere safe." "I know a path to my cabin," Nico said, his gaze piercing through the chaos. "It's nearby. We can shelter there until the storm passes." Nodding rapidly, I wrapped my arms around the child's slight form, drawing them close to my chest. Every instinct screamed at me not to let go, while my mind raced through likely scenarios. What had led them out here, alone? Did they have family? "On three," Nico called, preparing to lift the child. My body moved on autopilot, my mind screaming orders that my heart barely followed. 1, 2, 3. Together, we hoisted the child between us, Nico gripping their shoulders while I held their legs securely. Each jolt of their body sent ice coursing through my veins. As we navigated the thickening snow, I focused on the small, shallow breath that escaped their lips, my heart locked into a desperate rhythm of hope and dread. "Where is your family?" I asked softly, though I knew the child couldn't possibly answer. My own voice trembled with uncertainty, an echo of the heavy isolation I had felt for so long. It was a haunting reminder that the smallest voices sometimes were the ones that faced the darkest storms alone, that we stumbled through the swirling flakes, the wind howling like a banshee at our backs. Trees loomed above, their limbs weighed down with the burden of snow, both beautiful and foreboding. My legs were beginning to tire, but the fragile warmth I held against me spurred me on, forcing me to push past my limitations. After what felt like an eternity, we reached the outline of Nico's cabin, nestled between the trees. Relief washed over me, but it barely had time to settle before fresh fear pierced through my thoughts. What if we were too late? What if the child never woke? Nico quickly pulled the door open, and we hurried inside, the rush of warmth inviting us in as we laid the child on a rough-hewn bed by the fire. "Watch for blankets, I'll get some water," he said, his urgency igniting a spark of movement in me. I rummaged through the cabin, fighting against the doubt that crowded my thoughts. Every moment felt electric, charged with the fear of what might come next. I blinked back tears of uncertainty, frustration, and the remnants of my own heartache. I felt the fragility of life crash against me, wrapping its icy fingers around my throat. "I found these." I called out, my hands trembling as I carried a stack of thick, woolen blankets back to the child. "Please, let this work." As I draped the blankets over the small figure, I felt Nico return with a bowl of warm water and a cloth. His hands did not shake as mine did, and it steadied me just to watch his focused determination. "Let us see if they're responsive," he said gently, kneeling beside the bed. He dabbed the cloth in the warm water and began gently wiping the child's face. "Stay with us, kiddo," he whispered, his voice a heartfelt balm amidst the uncertainty that I held my breath, watching and waiting for a sign that we were not too late. Time slowed, drawing every moment out like a thin thread unraveling. Each passing second felt like it held the weight of endless possibilities, the hope for recovery, or the impending weight of loss. The stillness in the air thickened when suddenly, a cough broke through, weak but unmistakable. The child's eyes fluttered, and in that fragile moment, my heart leapt with cautious optimism. "There you go, stay with us," Nico murmured, the tenderness in his voice cutting through the tension. I reached forward, feeling an unexpected connection welling up within me. "Can you tell us your name?" I whispered to the child, gripping their hand gently. The warmth of their little fingers was reassuring, igniting a flicker of resolve in my heart, but before the child could respond, a loud crack echoed through the cabin, the sound of wood splintering. My heartbeat quickened with dread, and I exchanged a horrified glance with Nico. Just as I began to piece together the gravity of the moment, the reality struck like a bolt of lightning. The world outside had changed dramatically in our hour of hope and rescue. Dread pooled in my stomach. What awaited us beyond the walls of this sanctuary? Would our small act of kindness lead to our own downfall, or would it offer a glimmer of hope amid the storm? In that instant, the cabin door flew open, and a gust of wind brought a figure in with it, silhouetted against the raging storm, their eyes locked on us with fierce intensity. "What have you done?" they demanded, their voice piercing the air like a knife, and instantly, the warmth we had taken refuge in felt cold and threatening. The stranger's silhouette loomed in the doorway, a dark cloud against the bright chaos of the snowstorm outside. Their eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned the cabin, a mixture of anger and desperation swirling through their gaze like the wind howling behind them. My heart raced, and a painful pit formed in my stomach. "Who are you?" I finally managed to say, my voice steadying despite the tremor of fear that coursed through me. But before the stranger could answer, the child stirred again, a soft whimper escaping their lips. My instinct pulled me back to them, my protective nature igniting in the face of this new threat. I reached out to the small body, wishing with every fiber of my being for them to pull through. "Help us!" Nico pleaded, stepping forward, the bowl of warm water still in his hand. "We found this child buried in the snow. They need help." The stranger's expression softened slightly as they cast a quick glance at the child before shifting their focus back to us. "What were you thinking?" Their voice was laced with urgency, concern threading through their initial hostility. "You could have put your lives at risk. You have no idea what's out there." I glanced at Nico, who looked just as bewildered as I felt. Yet, despite the stranger's fierce demeanor, the air was thick with an unsettling familiarity. They were scared, just like us. "Could you help?" I asked, desperation edging my tone. "We need to warm them up. They can't afford to be left alone." I felt the urgency in my voice, hoping it would bridge the chasm of distrust settling between us. The stranger hesitated, and during that span of silence, I saw the slightest flicker of humanity in their eyes. I can help, but you need to listen to me. After this storm passes, you'll need to leave here as quickly as possible." "Why?" Nico asked, his brow knitting in confusion. "Because this place isn't safe. There's more than just a storm out there." Their voice trembled, breaking just slightly, and I realized it held a weight I hadn't anticipated. I thought I had outrun it, but it always finds a way back. The child coughed again, a desperate sound echoing through the room. It shattered the tension, breaking through the layers of fear gathering between us. Without another word, the stranger dropped their stance, moving towards the bed, kneeling beside the child with a resolute gentleness that surprised me. As the stranger pressed a hand on the child's forehead, they seemed to calm. "You've been through a lot, little one," they murmured softly. "Let us make you feel warm and safe, all right?" The warmth of their compassion filled the room like the fire flickering behind us, igniting a spark of hope I feared had been extinguished. The tension began to diffuse as I felt a strange unity forming amid the chaos. "What's your name?" I asked the stranger, my curiosity piquing amidst the rising anxiety. "Evelyn," they said, eyes narrowing as they tended to the child. "And you should all sit down for a moment. The child needs to stabilize before we consider what's next." I helped Nico pull a chair close to the bed, and we settled next to Evelyn. The initial fear that had gripped me was melting away, and I was left with a semblance of hope. "We found them alone in the storm," I finally managed, my gaze flicking between the small figure and the darkness outside. "I don't understand how they got there or what they were doing. Isn't there someone who might be looking for them?" Evelyn looked up, their brow furrowing with thought. "You may not find the answers you seek. Sometimes, it's the ones who vanish without a trace that are left behind in storms like these." Their eyes grew distant, lost in memories, and I could see the pain hidden beneath the surface. The room filled with silence, and I could feel the energy shift. It was a nagging reminder that we were all wrapped in our own cloaks of heartache, something the approaching storm had exacerbated rather than unveiled. Then, just as we began to hope for recovery, a faint rattle of chains echoed from outside, creeping into the warmth of the cabin. My stomach clenched, the shadows in the room thickening with every tremor of sound. "What was that?" Nico whispered, his voice a frightened breath. Evelyn's head snapped up, a look of stark realization glazing their features. "It's coming. They've tracked me here faster than I anticipated." Suddenly, the air felt electric, the familiarity of the storm worrying me in ways I couldn't grasp. My heart raced, and I latched onto the child's tiny hand, brushing away the cold that still clung to them. "What should we do?" I asked, my pulse pounding in my ears. Evelyn looked at me, their expression fierce and protective. "We stay together. No matter what. If they want to find me, they'll have to confront all of us." But as a chilling gust of wind howled through the cracks, I could not shake the feeling that whatever it was that awaited us beyond those walls was far more dangerous than we could ever imagine. "Trust me," Evelyn added, a gravity in their voice. Though fear coiled tightly within me, I took a deep breath, feeling our fates intertwine. But hope began to struggle against the tightening noose of dread that seemed to be drawing closer and closer, encircling us. In that moment, the child's eyelids fluttered open again, and I held my breath, praying they would awaken to safety. "Stay strong," I whispered, "you're not alone anymore." And just as their gaze met mine, a deafening crack echoed from outside, and the door slammed shut in the wind, an ominous sound that promised that our small sanctuary might soon become a battleground. The deafening crack reverberated through the cabin like an omen, and I instinctively pulled the child closer, gathering them into the protective warmth of my arms. The tremors coursing through my body echoed the turmoil in my heart, uncertainty battling with a desperate hope for a brighter tomorrow. "Do you hear that?" Nico mouthed, eyes wide with fright as he strained to discern any movements outside. Evelyn's expression shifted from concern to determination. They swiftly rose from their crouched position, their body rigid and ready for whatever was to come, urgency coursing through every tense sinew. "We need to barricade the door," Evelyn commanded. "There's no telling how many of them might be outside." Nico nodded and sprang into action, pushing against the worn table with all his might, while I caught a glimpse of the child's face. They had closed their eyes again, their breath shallow, and I could feel the warmth of their small body falter against mine. Panic surged through me, but I forced it down, reminding myself that I needed to remain the anchor in this storm. With the door reinforced by the table and a couple of old crates we got from the corner of the room, we stood together, each of us breathing heavily, feeling the weight of both the storm outside and the invisible threat that loomed over us. Evelyn motioned for silence, listening intently. Shadows flickered along the walls, distorting the world around us, and the whistling of the wind seemed to wane, replaced by an unsettling stillness that settled over our small fortress. "What if they try to get in?" Nico whispered, his voice shaking. "What if we're not strong enough to stop them?" Evelyn placed a firm hand on his shoulder, a reassuring gesture, though I could see their own questions swirling beneath the surface. "We just need to hold on for a little longer. The storm will fade, and when it does, we'll figure out our next move." But deep down, I knew that as long as the storm raged outside, so too would the chaos threaten to invade our cautious sanctuary. It felt hauntingly like a still moment before an unseen tide, a moment heavy with unrefined fear. Just then, a soft fluttering caught my attention. I turned my gaze to the child, who had stirred slightly. Their eyelids parted, revealing a flicker of recognition as they blinked up at me, confusion knitting their brows. "You're safe," I assured them, smoothing a hand over their hair. "We're all here. We won't let anything hurt you." Evelyn knelt down, meeting the child's gaze with a gentle smile. "Just a little longer, we promise. You're fighting, aren't you?" The child nodded hesitantly, and in that moment, a thin veil of connection formed between us, a tiny ember stirring amidst the icy fingers of despair. But the reprieve was short-lived. A sudden thud echoed from the door, jolting me from that brief moment of solace. "We need to be ready," I urged, swallowing the growing knot in my throat. "How much longer can we hold them off?" Evelyn's gaze darkened. "As long as it takes." "But I can't let," they faltered, catching themselves before uttering a name I sensed was carved deep with regret. "I can't let anything happen to you all," they finally finished, resolve lacing their tone. Then, another thud reverberated through the door, followed by a low, guttural growl that slithered around the cabin like smoke. I gripped the child tighter, every instinct screaming at us to fight, to run, but we were trapped within our sanctuary, waiting for the storm to wane. "Evelyn, what is out there? I ventured, my voice barely above a whisper. The flickering flames seemed to respond, crackling in response to my trepidation. They hesitated, and in that pregnant pause, the wind howled louder, as if urging them to reveal the truth behind their past. It's something from my past. A wrong turn, an echo of mistakes I thought I had outrun. But now it's back, and it's taken too much already. A realization bloomed like petals in sunlight, illuminating the dark corners of my mind. Evelyn wasn't merely a stranger. They were bound to this storm in ways I had yet to understand, a connection running deeper than my terrified heart had anticipated. Then we have to stop it together, I replied, choosing my words carefully. We've fought this far. We can't let fear win now. Evelyn's eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, something flickered, a recognition of shared strength amidst our shared fear. Then, without warning, the door shuddered with renewed force, the sound a demanding roar. From outside, the growl grew, merging with the wind until it culminated into an inhuman, haunting wail, as if the storm itself had taken form. My heart hammered in my chest, and I looked down at the child, their little fingers tightening around mine. Stay close, I whispered. We'll face this storm together. Just as my words hung heavy in the air, the door rattled again, this time yielding slightly under the relentless pressure. A crack appeared, chilling tendrils of darkness winding their way into our sanctuary, and the shadows seemed to pulse, hungry for freedom and vengeance, and in the midst of that swirling chaos, a fleeting thought crossed my mind. What had I unknowingly stepped into? Evelyn turned back toward me, urgency mingling with fear staining their features. If we don't make it to dawn, they started but stopped, swallowing hard. We must not let it take the child. In that chilling instant, the door buckled once more, and a bone-chilling scream echoed through the howling winds, the last line of defense crumbling quickly, unveiling the true terror waiting just beyond our reach. Hold on tight, I cried, and as I braced for impact, I felt an inkling of something more powerful than fear surge within me. Whatever awaited us outside that door, I knew one thing for certain: we wouldn't face it alone. And together, our fight had only just begun. The door splintered under the weight of something primal and furious, a force not just of nature but of raw, unbridled fear. It felt like the end, like the sanctuary we had hastily constructed was about to be torn apart at the seams. In this precarious moment, I could see the tension ripple through Evelyn's frame, each muscle taut in anticipation, a single bead of sweat tracing down the side of their face. Get ready, Evelyn shouted, a battle cry woven with urgency. We need to defend the child. I nodded, instinctively clenching the small figure against my chest as they trembled in response to the impending danger. I shifted slightly, just enough to catch a glimpse of Nico, who was fumbling with a kitchen knife he had managed to find. The blade glinted dully in the flickering firelight, reflecting the chaos swirling in the cabin. The door finally bucked open, wrenching itself off its hinges, and in poured the bitter wind, thick with despair and the icy touch of an approaching shadow. I could hardly focus, chaotic thoughts were racing through my mind, and in that moment of vulnerability, an instinct kicked in. Evelyn, now! We surged forward together as the entity lurked just beyond the threshold, forming out of the dark with a humanoid shape draped in shadows, its face obscured but a palpable malice radiating from its presence. The child, in my arms, instinctively pressed their tiny hands over their eyes, murmuring incoherent phantoms of dread. Nico, don't, I began, but it was too late. He charged forth brandishing the knife, youthful bravado flaring for a moment before the figure responded. The air shifted, and with a bone-chilling growl, it lunged forward. Evelyn unleashed a fierce battle cry, taking hold of Nico's shoulder and pulling him back just in time, leaving the entity grasping at air. We can't fight like this. It feeds off fear. We need to be united. As the winds howled fiercely, I felt the ground beneath us shake like the world was unraveling, splintering from the intensity of the storm. What do you mean? I panted, desperation clinging to my words. How do we fight it? Evelyn turned, their eyes blazing with determination but tinged with shadows from the past. This isn't something you can easily defeat with weapons. It's a specter of my regrets, my mistakes they are manifesting. Their voice crackled with emotion, memories spilling over like a rushing tide that I felt a deep pang within me, a connection revealed under the combustive urgency, a revelation that our struggles were interwoven, two souls caught in the echoes of their histories. We can face it together, Evelyn. Let your past fuel our strength. We're not alone in this. The entity surged again, and with that, I felt an incredible warmth begin to spread through the room, ignited by that fleeting hope. The child shifted in my grasp, small fingers slipping from my hand to plant themselves firmly on the ground as if anchoring their very spirit into the soil beneath them. Evelyn closed their eyes, almost entranced, breathing deeply as if drawing in every fear, every regret they had carried for so long. "You're right," they murmured. "This ends now. I will not let it take you from me, from us." With shared resolve, we closed the distance, surrounding the child as if forming a shield. The entity seemed to waver, its form flickering like a flame caught in breezes, momentarily thrown off course by our unified stand. But at that moment, I also understood a revelation rippling through me. "Evelyn, what did it take from you?" Their face contorted with pain as memories surfaced, and the shadows swirled violently at the edges. "A friend, no, a family I lost to the same storm. I thought by running, I could escape my past." A gasp left my lips as realization crashed over me like a tidal wave. We were witness to not only a personal battle for survival but a confrontation with the grief that had shackled Evelyn for so long. The entity roared with fury, taking a step closer, and I gripped the child tighter. "This time, we stand together, Evelyn. No more chains." With every ounce of strength that we could muster, I beckoned the little one to focus on the warmth that enveloped us, the flicker of our collective hope. "Together, we push back. You can own the light from your pain." Time felt suspended, shadows clashed with light, and hope wove its way between us. But just as it seemed we might drive the darkness back, the entity lunged, enveloping us in a cold, suffocating mist. My stomach clenched as the world spun, the cabin around us spinning into an abyss. The brightness I had hoped for dimmed, and in that chaos, Evelyn stumbled. "No. I won't let it take you." They reached for me, but their voice was swallowed by the shadows closing in around us. With a final scream, darkness swallowed everything, and I felt our connection falter, the haze consuming all. "Evelyn!" I cried, but the wind whipped through my lungs, choking every word and every breath. Then, silence. I was left grappling with a suffocating void, alone in the embrace of despair. Yet even within that darkness, I could not shake the spark that still flickered deep inside. Together or apart, my heart firmly remembered our resolve, and in the stillness before the inevitable, it whispered a single truth: we had come too far to surrender now. As my eyes adjusted to the suffocating dimness, I caught a glimpse of something, a small, delicate light flickering at the periphery of my vision. Hope threaded through my heart. Was this possible? Could we find our way back to each other in this fractured realm? But just as hope stirred anew, I caught a glimpse of a shadow lurking ominously nearby, a different figure entirely, detached from our fight yet poised to bring forth new chaos. In that shocking instant, I understood that the path ahead was only just beginning, and the darkness would not be easily conquered. "Evelyn," I whispered, a plea bridging the vast chasm between despair and hope. "I'm coming for you." The air was thick with an icy stillness that pressed against my skin, the weight of solitude encased me like an unwelcome shroud. Even in the closeness of despair, I strained to see beyond the darkness, to trace the outline of that faint, flickering light that had caught my eye, a beacon hidden within the shadows. It beckoned me, a whisper of warmth amid the chill gnawing at my bones. A tremor coursed through me as I took a hesitant step forward. The ground felt uneven, but the faint light pulsed with rhythm, a heartbeat echoing through the silence. "Evelyn, I won't let you go," I murmured, gripping the fear that threatened to engulf me. I couldn't afford to lose them even if the path ahead was precarious. As I advanced, the figure lurking in the shadows expanded, morphing into a collective of malevolence and despair, swirling like a tempest of anguish encroaching upon my fragile resolve. Every instinct urged me to turn back, that the darkness was too deep to traverse, but a flicker of determination ignited within. In the depths of the storm, there lay hidden layers of strength and the resilient memories of shared laughter and warmth. Remember the snowflakes, Evelyn? Together, we loved the way they sparkled, how they kissed the ground softly. They reminded us that even the coldest storms could yield beauty. The words fell from my lips like a lifeline thrown into a tumultuous sea. I summoned every cherished moment we had shared, those fleeting sparks of joy that stood defiant against the encroaching gloom. The light grew, illuminating fragments of the space cloaked in shadow, each glimmer revealing remnants of our memories. The cabin appeared again, though changed a chiaroscuro of warmth and cold where the spectre lingered. I could almost make out the shape of Evelyn, their essence woven through every light and dark hue. But the darkness did not relent, it lunged at me with a coiling tendril of rage, seeking to snuff out the hope I clung to so desperately. No! I shouted, grounding myself. I refuse to let you take my heart's warmth. You thrive on fear, but I choose to embrace love. With every ounce of desperation morphing into determination, I pushed against the shadows. My own heart beat louder, pumping the very essence of our shared memories into the air, a fragrant mix of laughter, stories whispered beneath blankets, and the joy of a shared cup of hot cocoa during freezing nights. As I strained against the mist, the flickering light responded, swirling in synchronization with my heartbeat. Beneath the suffocating darkness, I could hear faint echoes, Evelyn's laughter entwined with their pain, woven together into something tragically beautiful. They were here somewhere hidden, and I could reach them if I could just push through. Evelyn! I cried out, weaving feelings together into a tapestry of connection. I know you're here. Our love belongs to this world, not their darkness. Suddenly, the darkness recoiled like something alive, howling in a cacophony that threatened to shred my resolve. There, in the heart of the chaos, another flicker broke free. The child's anxious whispers began to spark a soft glow alongside mine. Together. I urged, feeling that new connection surge like a current flowing through me. You can't take our love away from us. I felt the child close to my side, their small presence unyielding. Their hands gripped mine, irrespective of the towering darkness that seemed to close in tighter. A warmth blossomed from the root of our joined strength, a surreal glow expanding outward, casting shadows back once more. But in that moment of clarity, a sudden shiver ran down my spine. I felt a flicker of something deeper, something lurking within the shadows, the shape of a lost soul entwined in despair, pulsing with an undeniable pull. Before I could process or push it away, the shadow pulsed, and in an instant, it coiled around the flickering warmth, plunging it back into the abyss. I gasped as the cold seized me, encasing my heart in frost. In that icy grip, whispers began to fill the air, distorting my thoughts, bending them into shapes too multifaceted to understand. Do you feel it? Do you sense the ache of your memories? The betrayal of your past? The voice echoed with familiarity, though the tone was twisted and haunting, resonating deep within my chest. I struggled against it, but the maliciousness clawed at me, revealing the lies I told myself, the darkness I thought I could overcome. Evelyn, my voice trembled, but I refused to yield. You taught me that love can pierce through even the darkest storms. No matter what it takes, I will not let you drown in regret. But just as I thought hope had returned, the shadows shifted once more. They elongated and expanded, framing a figure I had not expected, a glimpse of the past disguised in anguish, yet utterly vivid. My heart raced as I recognized them, a face strained by sorrow, a reflection of my own fears and regrets. Was this the spectre of my own past drawing nearer, clawing toward me, urging me to join its lament? Face your truth, or you will remain shackled to it forever, came the distorted plea. No! I shouted into the void, desperation bubbling beneath the surface. Evelyn! I'm coming. Just hold on. But as my words cut through the mist, the flickering light began to dim, teasing a new reality, one filled with unresolved pain and visions that threatened to drown us all. Who was I truly fighting? The storm outside, or the very shadows within me that had come forth? Terror clenched my heart as their shadows danced closer, blending with mine, creating an intricate web of darkness that now ensnared my hope. And just when I thought I had seized the light, the words of my past echoed ominously in the stillness, "You can't escape, can you? Evelyn." I cried out again, my voice trembling between fear and unwavering determination. "I will find you. I will light our way back." But the shadows twisted as the painful realization set in. This was more than a battle against an entity, it was a confrontation with the tangled web of our souls, shaped by love, loss, and regret, a testament to everything we feared could consume us both. Yet as our paths converged, I swore I'd give everything, corruption or no, to extinguish that lingering darkness. In this moment of desperate clarity, the icy silence amplified a dangerous cliffhanger stretched before us, suspended in an unresolved battle that felt neither won nor lost. And as the figures around me wavered, one thing was certain: the heart of our storm was just beginning to unfold, and our fight for hope had taken on a life of its own. As I felt the shadows tightening around me, the echoes of whispers twisted into a cacophony of memories I had tried to bury. Each flicker of light that fought against the darkness revealed haunting images, unforgiving moments that felt like shards of glass embedded in my heart. They danced before my eyes like fragmented scenes from a life I longed to reclaim but feared could never return. "Face your truth." The voice grew, reverberating through the storm. I could feel its grip tightening, a leash around my very essence, pulling me closer to the ruin of my own regret. Every heartbeat screamed of Evelyn's laughter, an ethereal sound now muffled by the weight of sorrow. "You think love conquers all, but look where it has led you. No. You're wrong." I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. "Love is worth fighting for. It is the bridge over this chasm of despair." But the shadows echoed back my denial, mocking me. The figure, a spectral caricature of my unhealed wounds, hovered above the ground like a dark omen. I recognized the flicker of my own mistakes within their hollow eyes, a reflection of the heartache I had left unattended, festering in the corners of my soul. "You say you love Evelyn, yet you hesitate to confront your own darkness. How can you save her when you can't even save yourself?" The question hung in the air, heavy with truth. A cold dread settled in my chest. The realization struck me that I had been so focused on Evelyn, on rescuing her from the shadows, that I had neglected my own healing. Yes, I had wielded love like a sword, but what good was it when I lacked faith in my own worth? The thought spiraled, demanding my attention, but just when despair threatened to take root, a shining warmth broke through the darkness, a beacon igniting hope at the very core of my being. I thought of the child, of our fragile yet unbreakable connection flickering like a flame. "Together," I gasped, calling out to the essence of love that thrummed within me. "Evelyn, remember the promise we made? That we would face the storms together, that we would illuminate the darkness through our bond." With renewed resolve surging through my veins, I accepted my truth. I let the pain wash over me, each sorrowful memory a thread in the tapestry of my journey. In the depths of my vulnerability, I felt Evelyn's spirit entwined with mine, a heart intertwined with love and loss, bathed in the glow of shared existence. But in that moment of awakening, the dark figure loomed larger, its presence growing more palpable, an embodiment of every regret, every missed opportunity, every lingering doubt. "You cannot embrace the light without acknowledging the shadows of your past," it taunted, a sinister smirk playing on its lips. This spectre, the amalgamation of my fears, reached out toward me with long, grasping fingers. I clenched my fists, feeling the warmth of hope batter against the encroaching cold. "My past does not define me," I shouted, a surge of strength filling my chest. "Those shadows are mere echoes of lessons learned. I am not alone in this fight, I carry Evelyn's love within me." And as those words left my lips, the child beside me squeezed my hand tighter. Their innocent warmth sparked a flame of resolve, a reminder that love, even in its most fragile state, could transmute darkness into light. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, swirling chaotically around us, their rhythm disrupted by the insistence of our collective hope. Even as the spectre writhed, uncertain of its place amidst our burgeoning unity, the air thickened with burgeoning possibility. I took a step forward, bolstered not just by my own courage, but by the sweet laughter that unspooled beneath layers of pain and bitterness. "Let us rise together, Evelyn." I cried out, my words like fire igniting the frost binding the darkness. You taught me that love knows no bounds. Even when storms threaten to drown us, we can melt the ice that binds our hearts. We are stronger than our past. In that moment, a soft glow began to erupt from our joined hands, illuminating even the darkest corners of the void. The shadows fluttered dangerously close, but power surged through me, a tidal wave of affection anchored by a steadfast love that refused to wane. But just as I felt the tides turning, a sickening chill clutched my heart once more. A shadow split from the mass, a new presence that felt achingly familiar engulfed me. I turned, heart racing, to find another figure emerging from the mist. As they stepped into the light, a realization slammed into my chest, leaving me breathless. It was Evelyn, but this time, a version of Evelyn I had never seen, a twisted reflection of joy and grief interwoven, revealing an anguished truth I was not ready to face. Panic seized my thoughts, threatening to drown out the flickering warmth that flickered within me. No, it can't be, I whispered, fear clawing at my throat. How had we ended up here, ensnared in this intricate dance of love, longing, and despair? Do you see? The specter of my past sneered, the acoustic harmony of my failures tainting the air. The ones you love are but reflections of your own darkness. Will you risk everything to save a shadow, when your own light remains clouded? The shadows spun faster, and I stood paralyzed, teetering on the precipice of despair, viscerally aware that this was merely the beginning of a deeper struggle, a battle that might consume the very essence of our interconnected souls. And as Elias threatened to spiral out of control, I felt my heart split, torn between the unwavering love I carried and the fragments of anguish that had stitched my very being. In that moment of confrontation, we stood suspended in a bittersweet agony, love and pain intertwined in a tableau that would be forever etched upon my heart. The fight was from within, but at what cost would our affection stand resolute against the storm? I closed my eyes, bracing for the next wave. The answer lay waiting amid the chaos, shrouded yet tantalizingly close. The promise of light flickered, but could I hold on to both Evelyn and my own truth, or would the shadows prevail? All I could do now was summon every ounce of courage and ride that cresting wave toward whatever revelations awaited us in this unending tempest, even as it threatened to consume my very soul. The cold air prickled my skin, a biting reminder that at any moment, I could be swept away by this storm of emotions spiraling around us. The twisted figure of Evelyn loomed before me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears and unspoken words. I felt the world constricting, the silence thickening with dread as the flickering light of hope began to dim. Evelyn, I said, both a plea and a declaration, desperate to breach the chasm of anguish that separated us. Her gaze pierced through the haze of self-doubt, wide with the weight of the truth that lurked just beneath the surface. I reached for her, a movement ingrained with love but hampered by fear. You're here, but why do you seem so lost? She opened her mouth to speak, but the chaos surged around us like a tempest. The shadows began to scream, their cacophony drowning out her voice, drowning me in a sea of doubt. You think you can save her? The darkness hissed, multiplying around us. You could never be enough. No. I cried out, defiance clawing its way through the encroaching cold. I can't bear to lose you. Yet even as I shouted, the very foundation of my certainty cracked beneath the pressure of despair. I had been carrying my love for Evelyn as a shield, yet I could not save her if I could not first save myself from the shadows. In the overwhelming noise of fear, I caught a glimpse of a flicker, an image of our past, warm and vivid. A sun-drenched afternoon, where laughter spilled from our lips like a gentle cascade. It felt so impossibly distant yet achingly familiar. You are worth fighting for. Remember our laughter, our hopes. I pleaded. The memory was a lifeline, and I clung to it desperately. Evelyn's form began to blur and pulse, caught between the redefining light and the crushing darkness. But do you see what we've lost? She whispered, her voice barely cutting through the storm. Every moment we let fear control us, the memories we let turn into shadows. We're stuck in this whirlwind, lost in our own despair. Together, Evelyn, I urged, willing her to see the light I could feel still resonating within us. We can find a way back. I will not shy away from my faults, I will face our darkness. But you have to guide me. Our hands trembled as they reached for one another through the chaotic ebb and flow of despair. The distance between us felt like a canyon, yet I pressed on, emboldened by the strength of my love, a bond forged through trials and triumphs. Every heartbeat echoed soft reminders of the beauty we shared, for a heartbeat, our fingers connected, the flicker of warmth igniting something hopeful among the invasive cold. I could feel her essence, not just a reflection of my desires but a profound, aching truth. But what if my truth is suffocated by the past? She whispered, pulling away with a heartbreaking smile that twisted my insides. What if I can't remember who I am without those shadows? No. I cried as she began slipping back into the shadows that threatened to claim her once more. You are not your pain. You are the laughter, the warmth. I stumbled back, the shadows swirling, as if they were seeking to cover her entirely. Then please, remember, I begged, desperation filling my voice. My mind raced, desperately searching for a glimmer of light I could blurt out to draw her back. Remember the first snowfall? The child we always wanted to share it with? We were making something beautiful together. Evelyn paused, and for a moment, it seemed the shadows had stilled, teetering on the edge of surrender. I could see the flicker of recognition in her eyes, that moment where love battled against despair, a flicker born from the memories we cherished. But just then, glaring truths surged forward, ignited by the specter of failures past. You're holding on to illusions, maybe they're just the echoes of what you want. The figure sneered, revealing that dark recess encased within us both. What if your love isn't strong enough? You may chase, but can you truly catch what is always slipping away? My heart squeezed painfully in my chest. Could I truly hold on to Evelyn if the very essence of our shared experiences slipped through my fingers like melting snow? We will create new moments, I whispered fiercely, splintering through the bleakness that tangled our realities. I won't let our future evaporate into nothingness. Love, our love redefines every misstep. I lunged forward, my arms reaching, fighting against the chill that threatened to obliterate all warmth. Evelyn. The need in my voice reverberated against the storm, raw and naked. You are the light I cling to. In that instant, the realization resonated between us, a revelation both illuminating and terrifying. Perhaps love wasn't just about holding on to the light now, but allowing the memories of loss and trials to fuse with hope. You and I, we can rise. But only if we embrace every part of ourselves, including the shadows. Can we really? Her voice wavered, testing the spectrum of our shared darkness and light. In answer, I nodded, heart on my sleeve, willing for her to trust the love we had, layered through every flaw. We must try. I surged forward with one last plea, my heart held out like a treasure, raw and open. Please don't let this moment slip away. And within that frigid tempest, just as the storm reached its crescendo, I felt a crack beneath the towering walls of regret. Our hands, fumbling through the darkness, sought connection. Hope mingled with despair, a tapestry we were weaving in real time. But suddenly the shadows surged anew, slashing into that moment of vulnerability with a malice that made the air thicken with dread. You stand on the edge of losing everything you cherish, the figure spat, and in an instant, the ground beneath us began to tremble. Evelyn! I yelled, fear piercing the very core of my being as the space around us began to fracture, threads of reality pulling taut, threatening to unfurl. As the darkness swirled violently, I could feel the light flickering at the brink of extinguishing. And just as I braced for the overwhelming torrent, a haunting question echoed ominously in my thoughts: would I find the strength to confront my truth in time to save not just Evelyn, but ourselves, as the ground crumbled and shadows clawed at our every breath? The answer lingered just out of reach, tantalizingly close yet inevitably distant in this devastating tempest that had only just begun to rage. The storm raged with an unyielding ferocity, shadows swirling around us as I clung on to hope with a desperation I had never known. My heart thundered in my chest, a fierce symphony of unwavering love and gnawing fears that battled for dominance. Just as the darkness around us pulsed with dread, I focused all my energy on the flickering light that embodied Evelyn's spirit, the promise of a love transcending even the most vicious storms. "Evelyn, I believe in us," I cried, pushing against the chaotic tide. "We cannot be undone by the shadows of the past. We're so much more than our regrets, we are the laughter, the warmth, the dreams we dared to share." With every word, I fought back against the distorted whispers clawing at my resolve. They hissed with malice, twisting truths like knives, but I steeled my heart against them. I had come too far, I had walked through storms when I thought I could never weather them. I called upon every memory we had built together, each moment, each echo of joy that twinkled like snowflakes against the shroud of gray. As I breathed deeper, I felt the connection with the child beside me. Their eyes sparkled with innocence and hope, the very essence of what we were fighting for. "Remember the beauty of the first snowfall?" I pressed on. "It was never just about the cold. It was about the magic we saw in every flake. We can be that for each other, Evelyn. Just hold on." A tremor rippled through the shadows, wavering against the force of my conviction. In that heartbeat, I saw Evelyn's form shifting amidst the dark, a flicker of recognition igniting in her gaze. It was as if the warmth of our shared love brushed against the edges of her being, stirring even the deepest recesses of her heart. "Yes," she breathed, the desperation that tinged her voice twisted with disbelief. "But look what I've lost along the way. How can I come back from the shadows when they cling so tightly? Let them go," I urged, my voice breaking as the realization hit me: the path to healing was never about denying pain, but rather, about embracing it together. Those shadows are part of your journey, not your destination. You are not alone in this. We will not let fear reclaim what we have forged through love. As I stepped closer, weaving hope into the very fabric of our surroundings, I could feel the child's tiny hand clutch my leg tighter, their strength a reminder of what was at stake. "Evelyn, we've always had each other, even in our pain. We're resilient, we can rise, but only if we lean on each other. Trust our bond." The shadows faltered, the darkness clawing to hold on to its grip, yet within the swirling chaos, I could see the beginning of a flickering light. Evelyn's realization ignited a pathway through the haze. "You're right," she whispered, her voice trembling like a breath caught in the wind. "Together," I urged, reaching out my hand further, a beacon of unwavering love yearning to bridge the distance between our fractured selves. "Let us light the way through the shadows. No matter what awaits us, we will not face it alone." The air thickened, electricity sparking in the moment of our connection. The shadows writhed in protest, but my love surged forth, colliding with every hesitation, every fear. The flickering light began to expand, slowly wrapping around us, binding our spirits together in an intricate dance of love and loss. "I will not lose myself," Evelyn cried, her eyes shimmering with renewed strength. "I will not lose you." In that proclamation, the shadows screamed, contorting as if the very essence of despair was being drawn away from us. Moments blurred together as I felt memories flooding in, each cherished laugh, every time we had chosen joy over sorrow flowing back, knitting us together in an unbreakable bond. I could see our shared journey igniting life into the darkness. My heart raced, pounding out a rhythm stronger than its overwhelming fear. As light spread through the shadows, the distorted figure trying to invade our sanctuary began to wane, the dark whispers fading into the echoes of the storm. I set my resolve. Focusing on our shared purpose, the child, a living testament to love's endurance, stood tall beside us as a reminder of the hope we could create by facing this storm together. "Evelyn, let us break this chain," I shouted, our hands clasped, the warmth of our unity a shield against the encroaching dread. "On 3. 1, 2, 3. In that moment, a surge of energy pulsed deep within me. I could feel it, a blossoming warmth driving back the cold, wrapping around us as we surged together, united by every moment that mattered. With a mighty cry, we pushed against the darkness, the shadows writhing as the warmth enveloped us, transforming fear into strength. As the storm raged, I felt the edges of my resolve harden, and beneath our intertwined hands glowed a fragile yet fierce light, a phoenix rising, every ray bursting forth from the wreckage of shadows. We faced down the darkness together, expelled the cold, and with one resolute breath, we reclaimed the light of our love. At that moment, the shadows broke. For a heartbeat, time stood still, and the storm outside fell silent. As the last tendrils of darkness dissolved, I opened my eyes to find Evelyn standing before me, tears of relief streaming down her face, her warmth and light brighter than the storm had ever tried to extinguish. "I'm here," she whispered, her voice steady and full of love. With the child nestled against me, our hands enveloped, a quiet understanding shimmered between us, the realization that we could face anything the storm would throw our way. We had reclaimed our hearts from the maelstrom and found hope amid despair, and in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of newfound strength, I realized love had led us through the darkest storms and into the sanctuary of peace. Together, I breathed, locking eyes with Evelyn, seeing the truth reflected back in her gaze, the embodiment of everything we had dared to fight for. Always together. We would rise, anew and unhindered by the shadows of our past. Beyond the walls of our little sanctuary, the storm would eventually fade. And as dawn broke over the horizon, painting the world in hues of gold and silver, I knew that even after the fiercest storm, light would always return, wrapped in the fabric of our intertwined hearts. That my heart soared. We were not just survivors, we were warriors against the shadows. No matter what came next, the depths of love we had unearthed would carry us forward, unshakable in the face of the fiercest storms. Together, we could weather anything. After all, storms did not last forever, but love was eternal, a gift that would echo through every snowstorm that would come our way. And so, we stepped into the dawn, stronger than ever, ready to face the beauty of life, the journey of love, united against whatever storms might come next.